Hello and kia ora everyone, my name's Holly. Welcome to today's webinar. This is our second webinar and one we're really excited about. We've got some fantastic speakers today and we hope you find it as interesting as we do. So, today's session will run for approximately an hour and that will include a Q&A session at the end. All attendees will be muted for the session, but if you have any problems hearing me at the moment, then just exit and rejoin the session. We will also be monitoring the chat live, so if you have any questions, you can pop them in there and we'll respond. And then finally, if you can't stay for the whole webinar, we will have a recording available later this week. Next week, sorry, it's Friday. So we have a very full agenda for today. My job is to keep everybody to time and make sure that we fit everything in. You might have some questions after each individual section, but pop them in the chat and we'll address them at the end. Joining us on the call today is Joel Collins and Marija Juraja from Central Adelaide Local Health Network. We also have Jincy Jerry joining us from a pre-recorded session from the Mater Misericordia University Hospital in Ireland and our founder and CEO, Rommie Nunes. My name's Holly Hodson. I'm a registered nurse and head of sales for Blue Mirror, and I'll facilitate the session today. So I'll do formal introductions before each speaker. Before we kick off to the guest speakers, I will just turn my camera off so you can see the screen. I'd like to do a little recap of the world that we're working in at the moment. So we've spoken to many people and many of you here on this webinar about the challenges that you're faced with in PPE and hand hygiene training. So when we start with healthcare workers, our staff, what do they need from training? They need practical training that they can understand. They need a safe space to take their time to learn. They need training sessions that work within their shifts. They need time to consolidate their knowledge, and they need non-confrontational patient trainers. Now, with our charge nurse unit management specialist clinical educator hats on, what do we need from our IPC trainers? We need them to be consistent. We need them to stay motivated. We need them to be available for us at all times. We need them to be flexible in how they deliver training. They need time to deliver that training and time to assess the competency. And most importantly, we need them to be passionate about infection prevention and control. And finally, what does the organisation need from us? They need a more competent workforce, less HAIs. They need consistency in training programs that are scalable. They need a reduction of bad IPC practices, and they need data to measure the effectiveness of their training programs. So really, sometimes it feels like a bit of a unicorn that we're asking for. There's a lot of competing priorities, oftentimes a workforce of overworked and understaffed people, and layers upon layers of logistical challenges in rolling out effective training programs. When we think specifically about hand hygiene and PPE training, what is supposed to be infection prevention and control easily becomes infection reaction and control for a lot of us. And this is something that seems to impact all organisations, no matter how big or small they are. So if we focus specifically on prevention, how do we do this with our training? We can offer real-time corrective feedback. We can customise to suit your protocols. We can make training fun and engaging. We can offer one-on-one training to everyone. Our training is standardised and repeatable. We can measure compliance through a dashboard. We can train 24/7. And we can audit all of the information through automated reports. Why is it not clicking? And we can update our guidelines very easily from a centralised dashboard. This is what we're working hard to bring healthcare organisations and facilities. So now I'll show you a clip of Blue Mirror in action, focusing on a PPE doffing session for this one. So throughout the clip, you'll see a range of audio and visual prompts, guidance, and corrective feedback when I make an error. All of this is completely customisable. You'll see me from two different angles, lucky me, one showing my interaction with the iPad and the other the screen of the iPad itself, which is what I see in real time as I complete the session. So we'll get started.
Please show your hand to choose a protocol. Welcome. Remove gloves without touching the outside. Place in biohazard bin. Show your hands when finished. Please keep showing your hands, checking gloves. Done. Perform hand hygiene. Done. Without touching the outside, remove your gown. Hand touch contaminated part of gown. Perform hand hygiene. Without touching the outside, remove your gown. Pull away from you and place in biohazard bin. Done. Remove mask touching only the straps. Place in biohazard bin. Done. Perform hand hygiene. Done. You're all set. Thank you.
Right, thank you. That's enough from me at this stage. Our first guest speaker hails from the Central Adelaide Local Health Network. Marija Juraja has previously held a number of roles, ranging from the President of the Australasian College for Infection Prevention and Control to the Healthcare Associated Infections Implementation Advisory Committee at the Australian Commission on Safety and Quality in Healthcare. She has previously held an adjunct industry position at the University of South Australia. She is currently a shared lead of the ASIPSI Special Interest Group, as well as being on the Joanna Briggs Institute Infection Control Node Expert Reference Group and Surgical Site Prevention International Group. She is also the current chair of the ASIPSI International Conference Committee. In her spare time, which it sounds like you don't have a lot of spare time, Marija, she provides consultative services to industry members, including innovative product development and design. She is the Nurse Unit Manager for Central Adelaide Local Health Network, Infection Prevention and Control Unit. Marija, I will hand over to you, and I will mute myself and I'll unmute you, so you can just tell me when you'd like me to click through. You should.
Thank you, Holly. Yep, working. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the business case for using AI technology. Click. The topic is really about how artificial intelligence, or AI, and the business case to support future training in healthcare and particularly in infection prevention and control. And I'd like to declare that I have no conflicts of interest to disclose. Next slide, Holly. So what is AI? The Encyclopedia Britannica states that artificial intelligence, or AI, is defined as the ability of a digital computer or computer-controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent beings. The Government of Canada put out a directive on automated decision-making, and they state that automated decision-making means any technology that either assists or replaces the judgment of human decision-makers. Next slide. So where is AI used? Currently, AI has been used for several years in a variety of ways and different fields, such as detection of suspicious skin lesions, data-driven robots that perform minimal invasive surgeries, genomic and molecular sequencing for things like Alzheimer's and depression, developing targeted treatments, particularly for cardiac or even for depression itself, the training of physicians and students in aseptic techniques. There are now new language-based generated AI technology like ChatGPT, which I have used, that has the potential to talk of chatbots for answering patient questions, helping doctors take better notes, and even explaining a diagnosis to a concerned child. With COVID-19, for us, this gave us an opportunity to look at alternative ways to undertake training in enhanced respiratory precautions, not to mention looking to the future with Ebola training. Next slide, please. So what do we believe are the key benefits for AI for infection prevention control? The key benefits are time, scalability, access to training, resourcing, proficiency, and data and reporting. Next slide, please. So the time to train and scalability reduces the need for additional educators, frees up staff to undertake other tasks, can be done in any location, even from your home. You could even send a package of PPE home. They could use the hand hygiene products they have at home. It can be rolled out en masse on multiple devices and accessible at any time. And it's personable, immersive training. By optimising our resources, it actually allows for the reallocation and improved efficiency within organisations. The literature evidence estimates that organisations spend around $6,000 per annum per 1,000 staff to be trained. In a 500-bed hospital, that equates to around 0.4 FTE of staff required to provide training. If an outbreak or another pandemic occurred, using AI technology, staff could be rapidly trained within their own clinical areas, reducing the need to remove staff from the floor, creating staff shortages. Next slide. Access and resourcing. As I said before, it can be used on any device that has a camera, although Joel may talk to that a little bit in the next talk. Can be adapted to changes in education requirements, examples such as personal protective equipment and masks, and the training is standardised, ensuring staff safety. AI education is immersive and interactive learning, which allows the healthcare worker to practice and be proficient in areas such as donning and doffing of PPE, hand hygiene, and whatever else we develop in the future. Next slide, please. Data and reporting opportunities. We have the ability with having a single system or process of delivering education to access standardised automated training audits and reports. We're able to meet organisational needs for accreditation as well as internal and/or jurisdictional requirements. Transparency in data reporting without bias, and it can be integrated into your current internal organisational systems to streamline accessibility, meaning that staff are able to do their education even from home, but it's linked through a system that you have in your organisation, so you're still able to capture that data. Next slide, please. So return on investment, or ROI. It has the potential for decreased healthcare-acquired infections. We have the potential for decreased antimicrobial resistance. We have the ability to tailor and provide in-time continuous education and competency assessment. We're able to meet organisational accreditation requirements under the Australian National Safety and Quality Health Service Standards, the second editions from Standard 3, 3.6 to 3.09. 3.9. Quick scale up if another pandemic appears. And additionally, the literature evidence also supports effective training. A recent paper by Kasuku Tsukada, I hope I said that right, et al., outlines a blinded, prospective and randomised clinical trial that was undertaken through August to December 2021 at Tokai University School of Medicine in Tokyo, Japan. Second through to fourth year medical students were placed into 3 randomised groups. All were given a 30-minute lecture on PPE. They were then split into 3 different groups, training groups. They were either virtual reality, video, or face-to-face training. The findings from that they found is the virtual reality group, which is Blue Mirror, demonstrated no significant difference in performance from the face-to-face group, which is a positive thing. However, the virtual reality group has significantly higher effectiveness than the video group. The conclusion was that the video VR is just as effective as face-to-face training. Next slide, please. In conclusion, AI technology can create opportunity for new education packages based on your organisation needs. They can be tailored. It provides a comprehensive, accessible and cost-effective solution, especially where resources and time are limited. The major advantages are the ability to adapt, easy to utilise, no need to purchase equipment if you have access to devices with cameras, standardised training, and very rapid deployment where it's required, even in an outbreak. Next slide, please. So if there are any questions, we'll leave that to the end. Second to last slide, please. Here is my contact details if you require anything further or if you'd like me to send through any other additional references. We did develop a business case which has now gone through higher up through the organisation, and we're hoping that we will be able to have a very successful rollout in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Marija. And if anyone's got questions for Marija, just pop them in the chat or the question box there, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I think I just cut you off, Marija. So our next guest speaker is a colleague of Marija's, Joel Collins. Joel is the Associate Nurse Unit Manager for Central Adelaide Local Health Network in the Infection Prevention and Control Unit based at the Royal Adelaide Hospital. Working as a nurse since 2012, he's been involved in IPC since 2018, beginning as an infection control link nurse in the emergency department. He's been working with the Infection Prevention and Control Unit at Central Adelaide Local Health Network since 2020, with his current portfolio being centred in business management as well as contributions to the education and surveillance portfolios when required. He has a strong interest in quality improvement, human behaviour and utilising technology to enhance IPC knowledge and engagement. So Joel, I will just pass things over to you. I'll pause my screen for a moment and I'll make you should be able to switch to your screen, Joel. You might just need to unmute yourself, I think, Joel. Oh. Sorry, everyone. We'll just see if we can get Joel up on the screen. Oh. I think we're just struggling to hear you, Joel. You might need to, it says you're muted yourself, so you might need to unmute.
There we go. I think I was also muted by the organiser. All right.
Fantastic.
Cracking on. Sorry about that. Technology. All right. So thanks, Marija. That was really good to give a bit of background on what I'm about to talk about, actually. So basically what I'm going to talk about is the practicalities of using AI-based PPE training, because we've had the opportunity to be using Blue Mirror for the last 12 months, and in that time we put it through a bit of testing as well. So just jumping into it, as mentioned earlier, I work with Marija at the Central Adelaide Local Health Network in the Infection Prevention and Control Unit. And I guess what I'm looking at with this talk is, I guess, just recapping on what's already sort of been said already about PPE training being crucial for healthcare worker safety, but also how there are challenges with that training being time-consuming and a resource-intense exercise as well. So typically with traditional PPE training, the process that we would follow in our organisation is delivering education, whether it's a PowerPoint or a discussion around the PPE, and then observing the learners go through the donning and the doffing process and providing that verbal feedback as needed. With Blue Mirror, it's, I guess, using that vision, that see and respond technology to see the actions, assess for common errors, and give that real-time feedback. So when we first looked at it, it appeared like it could do what we were already doing in the traditional PPE donning and doffing training. So we wanted to actually test it and see what Blue Mirror could do compared to the traditional human method. So what we did, we got a group of 20, they were fourth year students. We gave them the presentation that we'd normally give on what the PPE they would be using, and a little bit about how to implement that in our organisation. And then we actually split the group into two. We had a control group and a test group. So the control group were delivered the typical training with a human observer giving that feedback, and the other group went through Blue Mirror. So once we'd gone through that process with all the students, we then mixed them all up, and we asked an assessor to come in, and we gave them groups of 2 at a time, and they would don and doff in front of that assessor, and they were blinded to how they were actually trained. And what we actually found was quite interesting, pretty similar to what that study that Marija quoted. So when they were going through and doing the auditing the donning and doffing process, they found that step-by-step accuracy was the same, process accuracy was the same, and more or less the same error rates. So roughly around 80% of these students still would mess up from time to time. But overall, it was very similar. So we were able to then, I guess, move forward to, I guess, looking forward, how else could we use this technology? So the next thing was looking at a bit more of a real world application, because with fourth years, that's one thing, but then putting it out there, I was trying to scale it up into our organisation. So we have two major hospitals, 2 rehab facilities, and a bunch of satellite sites. So I think we're all up to about 10,000 employees working for Carlin. So to be able to get this out to that many people in a meaningful way was the challenge. So what we actually looked at doing is if we were to install on the computers in the clinical space that had webcams, could Blue Mirror work in that setting? So we loaded the clinical computer in a single ward just to test it with Blue Mirror. We invited staff to use Blue Mirror and provide feedback at the end. We assigned a champion in the area to facilitate that because we couldn't be there 24/7. And we also gave the users access to Blue Mirror 24/7 so that we could actually get a mixed result of people who were supported by the champion and people who were non-supported, which we collected that information in the feedback survey they did at the end. And we also monitored the feedback that we were receiving from these users during that pilot to try and address any user issues or try and optimize Blue Mirror as we were going, because we were learning as well. And what we found is the users reported that they found Blue Mirror useful, but their feedback initially indicated that the training speed was a bit unusual for them because these were experienced nurses that were testing it out. For example, certain parts of the donning and doffing process could be sped up. For example, reducing the hand hygiene down to 5 seconds rather than the 15 seconds that we had assigned to it. I guess that's what we'd chosen to do. So we were able to then work with Blue Mirror to change how we had the sequence running. The users also encountered some issues with Blue Mirror that initially resulted in them finding it difficult to use, and these were found to be related to computer camera location, so not quite seeing the people who are using it quite well enough. background initially was a bit busy with posters, and as you know, in hospital we like to stick up lots of posters. So the busy background made it difficult for Blue Mirror to detect hands, and inadequate lighting was also a contributing factor. So we then moved the test computer, and we made some modifications, and we found that it resulted in a much better user experience. So Blue Mirror made PPE training more accessible towards staff. Sorry, I should rephrase that. We asked in the survey, does Blue Mirror make PPE training more accessible towards staff? 44% strongly agreed, 33% agreed, 11 were neutral, and 1 felt strongly against it, but they were an early user when we had that glitchy hardware, so I think that might have accounted for that. The higher rate of users who reported that Blue Mirror was easy to use came from users who had the support of a champion, and also those late pilot users when we'd fix some of those hardware issues. So in conclusion, AI does seem like it's got a lot of promise as an alternative form of traditional training. It does seem to have the ability to improve access to training for shift workers. And the major advantage for us is the potential to scale it up, and also the ability to use less, I guess, FTE of trainers and put them into different tasks. And we've at times done large inductions with our organisation too, and this would be something that would work quite well in that setting, I believe. With implementation, what we've learned so far, you do need the appropriate hardware for it to be successful. What we found in that pilot on the ward was that we probably didn't quite start with our hardware being set up well enough. We'd definitely go with clinical champions in an area to help facilitate uptake and troubleshoot, because it's a new technology. I think we're probably all quite familiar with initial resistance to things that are different, or and things like that. So having that champion really helps with that. And utilising the software modifications that can be made on Blue Mirror is a huge advantage, which if you don't have some kind of way of collecting that information, you're missing out on really optimizing how to use this. So I guess if you're rolling it out, making sure that the users have access to a survey that's monitored, and so then you can in real time try and adjust things and give them that support at a local level. We're also, I guess, when we're using Blue Mirror, thinking a bit about how it could be used in the future. So we're the South Australian Ebola designated hospital, and so with our Ebola training, that's something that usually the people who are trained up would need to refresh themselves annually, and it's obviously a fairly specific kind of PPE setup, so it could be used for that potentially. With the COVID-19 pandemic, it showed that we need to teach lots of people or refresh lots of people on PPE donning and doffing quickly. So a pandemic response with something like this might help you to scale it up and reach people quicker. And just keeping that baseline workforce skill maintenance by having something that can be accessed anytime, especially if it was easy to use and appealing. You might see staff engaging that when they've got a bit of spare time or some time to do some additional training. And there's also options in the future of how else this kind of AI training could be utilised with things like hand hygiene or even aseptic technique procedures. I won't get you to ask any questions now, but chuck them into the chat if you do have anything, and we can answer them at the very end. And if you wanted to ask me any other questions or reach out in any way, that's my contact details. Happy to get an email from anyone. And that's all from me. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Joel. And thank you, Marija, as well, for both of you. It's been fantastic working with you both over the past year. I will just bring my screen up. Hang on a second. I'll just go from here. It's been really lovely working with Joel and Marija. I think the key to any rollout of any new technology is getting that buy-in and championing it. And that's been such a seamless process with working with both Joel and Marija. It's really refreshing working with people and organisations where they've got a really high level of interest in challenging that status quo and really taking on board new solutions. and working constructively to roll them out. So it's been fantastic. Thank you both. So next I'll just work through some Blue Mirror features that you didn't see in the video clip that played before. So Blue Mirror is managed centrally by the admin console, which is accessed controlled by the system administrator of Blue Mirror for your organisation. The first feature within the admin console is the dashboard, which is what you see here on the screen. So the dashboard gives you a snapshot view of useful information. It tells you how and when the system is used, what the level of compliance and number of perfect sessions are, and can also include the percentage of positive feedback you're getting if you run those sessions. It's incredibly useful for anyone who's evaluating the cost of Blue Mirror and comparing it to the cost of completing one-on-one training. Seeing things like sessions completed after hours lets you know that the system is of use to everyone at all times, pushing that training equity within your organisation really well. For some of those familiar names on the call who have seen Blue Mirror, you know that we're not in the business of making recommendations for PPE protocols, and completely understand that there's a huge variation in how this is done through organisations, different states and different regions in the world. So we leave it to you, the experts, to design these PPE protocols to suit your organisations. They can be customised for exactly what you need it to be. And here you can see a screenshot of that protocol, PPE Protocol Designer, including different customisation options for individual commands. So this one is for a gown command. We also have options to personalise the experience for your staff. So here you can see where I enter a staff member and I can record what type of N95 mask that I've been tested for. And this here you can even select the language that I prefer to have my training in. This is crucial for people whose English is their second language. And the more that we can address and train people in their native languages, the better the comprehension will be. The third screenshot is showing you the hand hygiene summary page, which provides me with full information on my training session and indicators of whether this was to standard or not. So that feedback is really valuable for me in real time, so I can see how I'm going. When you think about effective training, of course it needs to be customizable, but this is something that can be really challenging when you deliver training in a more traditional method. With Blue Mirror, we can take every staff member and give them a personalised training experience, which works to enhance their capability and in general their competency. So that's a win-win scenario. When I think back to my nurse management days, I know how much of a huge burden additional admin can be. So, or any admin is a bit of a burden really, but unfortunately it's a huge part of our world. But with this in mind, we've developed the training schedule tool. So here you can set up PPE or hand hygiene refresher training in your calendar. You can notify your staff directly to their email addresses with all the crucial information that they need to know. Staff can then book in a time to complete their training, and from there they'll receive reminders about that training that's scheduled and upcoming to make sure they attend on that day. As we know, theory is so important when consolidating knowledge, and that's in any clinical setting. One of our most recent features is our theoretical training and assessment component, which is scenario-based questions. This allows you to give your staff real-life examples, encouraging them to apply their critical thinking skills when it counts, to apply their PPE and hand hygiene knowledge in practice. So as always, the system admin gets full access to all the statistical data from these sessions, and that allows you to see the results of the questions, which there's a little snapshot of the dashboard at the bottom there. So in this scenario, Rommie's on the screen, the audio will play describing what this exact scenario is, and then the person using it gets presented with a question that they need to answer, and they get real feedback in real time whether or not they answered that correctly. And consolidating that theory goes hand in hand with practical assessment. So you can switch to audit mode to assess your staff without any instructional prompts. You can choose which level of assessment you'd like. The screenshot here is showing the user what the correct sequence is, and then assess their skill in completing each step. You can also take it up a level from here and simply ask your staff to complete, for example, an airborne precautions doffing session without any prompts whatsoever. So no guidance, no sequence to follow, and really assess the application of their knowledge. So again, that's up to you to choose how you use it. And finally, you can complete your fit checking autonomously with the fit checking tool. So guide users through the correct process to ensure an acceptable fit of the N95 mask without having to attend to your staff one-on-one, or in cases where I've been working, coordinate huge fit checking days with multiple people attending on site to get through all the staff members. So next, it's time to hear from our founder and CEO, Rommie Nunes. I'll just make sure that if you can, Rommie, do you want to put your webcam on? And we can get you live on the screen. I'll just unmute you.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Rommie. So, as you know, we get lots of questions around AI and about how it's used in healthcare. So I guess you can do your own introduction. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into AI?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Rommie Nunes, founder and CEO of Blue Mirror. How I got into AI? I learned how to code computers as a teenager in high school, and one day I saw this article in a magazine about a professor who created a computer virus that did no harm to computers. It just survived and spread. And I found that intriguing. I found that exciting and powerful in maybe a philosophical way. And that's what I wanted to do. So I got into computer engineering uni, and I prioritized AI all through it. And my big uni project at the end of it was indeed artificial life simulation with a type of AI that we call genetic algorithms. So that has been my passion since ever. And I have had the opportunity to apply AI to software solutions throughout all my life, which is a great thing.
Fantastic. This next question is, I'll pitch it as it gets pitched to us very often. AI can be very polarizing for people. So how can we feel comfortable adopting new technology when there seems to be so much unknown about it?
I think AI used to be a lot more polarizing, and a lot more people are in favor camp now, especially in the last 2 years. There are two big drivers for that, in my opinion. One, there is a huge effort by the AI industry in ethical AI. There are frameworks, there are systems and checks, and all of a whole structure of in how you think in designing AI products that has changed significantly. And that is really important. And the type of products that we see nowadays in the market come from that generation, right? So that has helped shifting the public perception to the positive side, as compared to very early attempts where that was not taken into consideration, like the famous Microsoft chatbot that learned bad things on Twitter and was responding people freely. That was ages ago. But anyway, the second factor, in my opinion, is AI used to be something mystical sitting in a data center somewhere that you would never interact with or see the real value of it. And that also made us a lot skeptical. Is it really clever? Can it really do smart things? But nowadays you have things like Blue Mirror that you can see, hundreds of staff being trained by a smart system, or things like ChatGPT that we all carry in your pocket, and we all have experienced how powerful it can be in helping us in niche things. And I think that has hugely shifted the perception of the public. There are still some people sitting in the camp that are not sure, but I think all of them will be converted over time, because the AI age is coming. It is just beginning. It is unstoppable. We all will be using AI hugely in our lives. So it's a matter of riding the wave and taking control of that destiny, or waiting and joining late, I suppose.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think probably the next question I would have, which is one obviously we get a lot, is can you talk specifically to how at Blue Mirror we are protecting people's privacy and security for those that are not jumping on the wave first cut and feeling a bit apprehensive about it?
Yes, look, privacy and safety and data security are core in Blue Mirror. Your IT teams would love to hear all about encryption and secure APIs and all of those things, and we have all that, processes, backups, you know, the whole thing. But I won't bother you with that because I think there's a better way to exemplify this. Blue Mirror runs vision AI that can react to what you're doing, but we do not store any video, any photo. None of that gets sent to the internet ever. And that's one pillar of this. Yeah. But also, even on simple user experience decisions that help create that relationship of trust between user and system. To be identified by the system, you have to actively identify yourself. So you show a QR code, or you type your employee number, or you use one of those different methods of identification, but you know you now identified. And that gives people the confidence that they can run anonymous sessions. They can train 5 or 6 times before they train officially. So it's not about blaming, it's not about pointing fingers, it is about helping them really get to that proficiency level that we all want them to be at.
Yeah, fantastic. And finally, probably the most exciting question is, where do you see Blue Mirror in the future? Can you tell everyone a little bit more about what we might be doing?
Yes, absolutely. And look, the big dream is a world where there's a lot less healthcare-associated infections because healthcare workers everywhere are able to get simulation, one-on-one simulation training frequently.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the big dream. But how we get there? Well, we certainly going in the right direction, and we have a beautiful roadmap with lots of cool things. I'll mention a couple in a second, but I think it's important to say that the roadmap or the actual steps on how we get to that destination are guided by you. People like you in the audience, people like Joe, Maria, and other people that are engaging with Blue Mirror and guiding us and saying, well, this is helping us here, would be great if we could help it there as well, or it's helping us in this situation, but there is a certain situation where it's not helping as much. And you see then things like bringing bite-sized theory into the simulation training. You see things like managing the chasing people to go in training, because we've learned from experts that that takes a huge amount of time. And Joel touched on a couple of things that we may be doing in the future, like aseptic technique. We may be doing other skills. We have intention to grow this platform to be your best buddy in infection prevention training, right? And taking care of the whole journey, ideally. One of the things we have an ambition to go into is auditing. So we have a really interesting new experience for real-time compliance monitoring. I can't tell much about it at this point in time, but it's certainly a direction that we want to go, where ideally then we'll be able to combine simulation, hands-on training, theory, and compliance monitoring, all in a single tool, and aggregate all of the data and give you all of the control of that. So it's a glimpse on where we're going.
A little teaser. And I think on that note, getting feedback, we're really keen to hear from people about what they feel we can offer in Blue Mirror for them. There'll be a survey that goes out after the webinar that you can jot down some ideas and send them to us if you like. We really love hearing from people about where they see opportunities, or even, you know, difficulties in what you're doing from a day-to-day role position, what we can do to help. So please feel free to fill that survey out and send it through to us after the webinar.
I wanted to give you a very practical example here, Holly. Sorry, but very quick. Joe mentioned one of the struggles they had with a room that was with low light, and we just have in the labs now, we've been working on a light level detection to help him basically guide the user and say, no, sorry, this room is too dim, we need better lighting. So it's all of those little things, right? Is we really want to be guided by the experts on how we can really add value and how we can make this experience better and deliver the maximum in improving proficiency.
That's right. Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Rommie. I think probably just to add to what Rommie said from a clinical perspective, I do feel really passionate about this. I've been a brand new baby nurse, staff nurse in the hospital. I worked in education and management as well. And I think the key thing is we really don't need any gimmicky solutions in healthcare. We need easy to use, effective solutions that have a tangible impact on either our workforce or our patients or both. And so this is something I feel very passionate about. And we really do need tools that can help us do that effectively. So that's what we're striving for here at Blue Mirror. So moving forward, thank you, Rommie. Our final guest speaker joins us through a pre-recorded video because she's on the other side of the world, and we thought it would be very unkind to make poor Jincy do a live webinar at 1 o'clock in the morning. Jincy Jerry is a seasoned leader in infection prevention control, dedicated to driving innovation in clinical practice. Jincy is the Assistant Director of Nursing, Infection Prevention and Control at the Mater Misericordiae University Hospital in Ireland. In her current role, Jincy plays a pivotal role in strategically managing infectious diseases across hospital and community services. Her expertise spans clinical disinfection, environmental decontamination, surgical site infection surveillance, outbreak management, PAPA and ventilation assessment, and is backed by numerous publications in these domains. Jincy's pioneering use of robotic process automation within Irish healthcare has revolutionised the efficiency of infection prevention and control nurses, streamlining their administrative workload. Most recently, Jincy was recognised for her outstanding leadership and innovative vision during the COVID-19 pandemic, receiving the prestigious Hospital Manager of the Year 2020 award in the Irish Healthcare Awards. We have a very special relationship with Jincy, as she's collaborated with us to provide both clinical guidance and testing our hand hygiene training tool to ensure it's as effective as we need it to be. So last night I called up with Jincy, and this is what she had to share with us for our webinar today.
Thanks to Blue Mirror for inviting me for the webinar today. It is my pleasure to share my experience with the Blue Mirror and Hand. Hand hygiene is the best defense against spread of infection. Despite this knowledge, hospitals have low hand hygiene compliance rates. We struggle constantly to maintain hand hygiene rates above 90%, and it is a universal problem. We have a robust hand hygiene auditing practice in our hospital. Last year, we observed more than 5,800 hand hygiene moments. Our data demonstrate that hand hygiene compliance is only 87% among healthcare workers. Unfortunately, the hand hygiene technique was incorrect in almost 27% of staff who performed hand hygiene. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, hand hygiene education has shifted to e-learning module. Regardless of routine training, the utilization of existing technologies, increased availability of hand hygiene products at the point of care, and enhanced awareness campaigns, hand hygiene rates remained below the national average. So we ran out of ideas, and hand hygiene rates remained below national benchmark. We also faced some challenges. Staff shortage was often results in heavy workloads and time constraints, which can make it difficult for healthcare workers to prioritize hand hygiene. They may feel pressurized to save time by skipping the hand hygiene practice, which is absolutely a wrong practice. Individual attitudes and beliefs and behaviors can influence hand hygiene compliance. Some healthcare workers may perceive themselves as low risk for spreading infections or may underestimate the importance of hand hygiene. Healthcare workers may experience compliance fatigue, where they become desensitized to remedies or education about hand hygiene due to repeated exposure. This can lead to a decline in compliance over the time. Inadequate availability of hand hygiene products at the point of care can discourage healthcare workers from practicing proper hand hygiene. We have more than 4,000 employees in our hospital, and the high turnover of our staff adds to the challenges of training. We are left to wonder if we have completely disregarded the teaching of Semmelweis. Addressing these limitations requires a multifaceted approach that involves education, training, resources, monitoring, and organizational support to create a culture of compliance and prioritize patient safety. To overcome the barriers in training, we collaborated with the Blue Mirror. The collaboration led to the development of a single interactive AI-powered virtual hand hygiene training and testing tool. We call it as HandHit. Our first objective was to deploy and develop a single interactive AI-powered virtual hand hygiene trainer. Secondly, to deploy HandHit to provide hand hygiene training and practical assessment, which allowed the workers to learn and practice the correct hand hygiene technique, providing immediate feedback if they do not meet the criteria. To use the scenarios to provide hand hygiene training and assess knowledge of 5 moments of hand hygiene. To provide real-time feedback and address common misconceptions. And finally, offer reporting and analytics to identify areas of improvement and measure the progress and provide insight to stakeholders. So the HandHit was developed by the Blue Mirror team. It is an interactive, fun-filled hand hygiene training tool. It is intuitive and stimulates thinking. It is user-friendly and very easy to navigate. HandHit provides immediate feedback on hand hygiene techniques. It also provides a testing platform to perform practical assessment of hand hygiene techniques and assess gaps in practice. The key consideration in this project was to reimagine the way we deliver hand hygiene training. I love the scenario-based hand hygiene assessment. It increases the knowledge retention in healthcare workers. It also provides a departmental dashboards. It provides a compliance rate on hand hygiene training, compliance rate on hand hygiene practical assessment, and correlate the hand hygiene training with the hand hygiene observational audit results. HandHit has the ability to connect with the other systems such as EHR and LMS and provide departmental comparison for a fun-filled competition, such as Winner of the Month or Winner of the Year. In a nutshell, HandHit can be effectively deployed to provide interactive hand hygiene training, measure the hand hygiene technique with a greater consistency and objectivity than human observer, and provide an instant feedback. It can improve the knowledge retention on 5 moments of hand hygiene and reduce the resource requirements to deliver the hand hygiene training. It can provide dashboards and reporting and increase the hand hygiene compliance, and thereby reducing the healthcare-associated infections. If I summarize HandHit in one sentence, it is a powerful artificial intelligence technology that covers all aspects of hand hygiene training under one umbrella. Thank you.
So thank you to Jincy for her contribution. She has an incredibly refreshing approach to driving change while championing best practice and making it fun and trying to improve the human element of it too. So it's been fantastic working with Jincy. That concludes the session today, so we can jump into some questions, but I just wanted to say a huge thank you to our guest speakers for your time and contributions. It's been fantastic, and thank you very much to the audience for partaking in the webinar today. If you do have a question, you can ask a question in the chat or questions box on your GoToWebinar panel there, and we have had a couple come through, so I will direct the first one, Rommie, to you. Two questions around the same thing. So, is Blue Mirror suitable for complex PPE? And then another question is, anyone using it to train for Ebola? So, Rommie, would you like to answer that one?
Yes, Blue Mirror supports complex PPE such as Ebola, although not to the same extent as it does support conventional PPE. In the sense that with conventional PPE, it essentially it works with any type of PPE and any type of protocol that you can imagine. And with Ebola, because the type of equipment or the processes are a lot more complex and very particular and different one from another, then that has only been done through joint research projects with organizations. So it's not, Ebola training is not something that is offered off the shelf.
Sure.
But it is absolutely possible.
Yeah, fantastic. The next question is for Joel and Marija. You talked about having seasoned nurses use Blue Mirror. How did new staff react to it? New to nursing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so new staff was the group that I described, where we provided 2 different training methods and then mixed them up and got them assessed. And they seemed to, I guess they didn't probably have much experience to go on, but they both found both experiences were good. They got what they needed to learn from it, and when we assessed them afterwards, I guess we were happy with what they took away from it. That they were, you know, where they sat with a human educator or a Blue Mirror educator, we saw the same results. So we were quite happy with that, and they had a good experience. And I should mention they did find it, probably the novelty of using AI, they found quite fun.
Yes, I recall. There was a lot of, I think the novelty factor is very high.
Holly, the other thing too is that because we, our traditional way of teaching has been, you know, face-to-face or videos or, you know, online, you know, platforms where they're not actually visually seeing themselves donning and doffing. And I think that is one of the pluses of using this AI technology, because you can visually see yourself don and doff. Some people feel confronted by actually having someone teaching them, and if they make a mistake, they feel like they're silly. So sometimes having that AI technology takes that fear away. And the fact that you could take a bundle of PPE and take it home, and as long as you have a webcam, like we all have on our computers now, you could potentially, you know, go run through the scenario at home. And so again, you're in your own comfort zone, and if it's telling you you've done something wrong, you're the only one hearing that, but then you're able to correct that with the AI technology.
That's right. And I recall back to when I I helped out a bit in our isolation and quarantine facilities, and exactly that, you know, we were all confident in PPE until someone said, can you stand up and show us what the PPE protocol should be? And we were all very experienced nurses. There was no one volunteering for that, because the confrontational element to it is very real, isn't it? Especially when you're not 100% certain.
The other plus too, Holly, with this, with using this type of technology is, if you think about it at the moment, you know, COVID hasn't gone away. We've still got COVID, and we're still having outbreaks of it. We're still seeing outbreaks of gastroenteritis. So, you know, being able to deploy, you know, this AI technology in the beginnings of an outbreak to quickly do a refresher of all the staff is a positive thing.
We often have that when we speak with people that work in aged care, because there's such, when we think of outbreaks, obviously all of our brains go straight to COVID, but they work continuously in the world of outbreaks of gastro and normal seasonal flu and those sorts of things. And that's exactly right. It's important to be able to refresh yourself if you need to on those PPE protocols when it counts.
And if I can add one more thing, from an accreditation point of view, one of the things that we do have to provide as an organisation is the evidence that our staff have had training in PPE, donning and doffing. And so that's one of the pluses of having this technology, because we're not reliant on a staff member to provide the training. We're reliant on a system which they can access at any point. And as you've got the dashboard, we can pull that data in for our own reporting to reflect where our organisation's at with our donning and doffing of PPE.
Yeah. We've just had another question come through, Marija, which will be for you as well. Have you had any early indication on how successful the business case will be?
It's been a long process, I can tell you that. It's been a briefing and 2 business cases, but and we have in our organisation we've been streamlined into different programs, and there is a program now that is called Strategy and Digital, and there's a new executive director who's very engaging and very much into new technology. And so I think the last hurdle we had to jump was 4 weeks ago. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks we will have an outcome as to where we are with the briefing or with our business case. Any organisation anywhere in the world, they will always look at ways that they can streamline and save on budgets and improve efficiency and staffing. So that's one of the things with this technology and with the business case, that we're able to provide that evidence that we can achieve that. I know Joel alluded before that our organisation has around 10,000 staff. We actually have close to 19,000 staff across our organisation, of which probably about 16,000, 17,000 are the staff that need to have the education on hand hygiene and donning and doffing in particular.
Fantastic. I think I'll just have one more question, because I realise we're 2 minutes over time, but Rommie, this one's for you. If you can somehow summarise this, how does the system learn different types of masks and equipment and things? How does Blue Mirror learn what it does?
So we have a huge effort in training the AIs to become really experts in every single of those details. So, or say, let's call it our mask expert AI, end up becoming exactly that. Super expert in masks, and that is done by showing millions and millions of examples of people wearing different types of masks in different situations, in different angles, and wearing it correctly and wearing it wrongly, and how it is wrong, and the multiple ways that it can go wrong, like if you're touching your mask when removing it. So it's a huge effort in generating this training data that then it is taught to those artificial brains, to those AIs, and eventually at the end of it, they come up really smart and really clever in identifying that particular thing that you've trained. So I'm oversimplifying the process here, but that's essentially by showing millions and millions of examples of wrong and right until it learns the difference. And especially until it can abstract. So it can see a new person, a new mask, and still understand what's going on and still understand the context of the outcome of that action.
Fantastic. It's a good answer. And nice and simple. So I think we'll conclude the webinar now, because we are running slightly over time. But Joel, Marija, thank you so much for your contributions. We really appreciate you being on board today for the webinar. And Jincy, when she wakes up in the morning, thank you very much for your contributions. It's been fantastic to hear from all of you and give your real experiences of Blue Mirror, which is exactly what we wanted to share with everyone. So thank you for that. And Rommie, thank you for joining. If you've got any other questions at all, you can reach us at hello@bluemirror.ai. and we can respond to those, and we can also connect you to any of the speakers if you like as well. So thank you very much everyone for attending. We've really enjoyed today, and we will hope to see you all again soon in another webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.